Hello all, welcome to the second module of Nyquist plot. In the last session, we have seen how the polar plot is sketched and what is the limitation of polar plot, because of which we move on to the Nyquist plot. Today, we are going to see some of the definitions or concepts that are required to understand how the Nyquist plot is sketched and how to comment on the stability after sketching the Nyquist plot. Please try to understand. In this particular module, we are just trying to understand various concepts which we will put together later on in the later module to understand what is the Nyquist theorem. So let us start with the first concept, which we have already discussed yesterday. Let us just revise it, which is known as the critical point. Critical point in S-plane is located at -1 plus J0 because it satisfies both the angle and magnitude condition. Angle is -180 degrees and magnitude is 1. So critical point is very important to locate in case of polar plots as well as in case of Nyquist plots. Now the second definition that we need to study is analytic function and singularities. So as you can see on your screens, the function is said to be analytic if the function and all its derivative exist. What do you mean by existence? If the function exists, that means its value is finite. It should not be infinite. Now let us directly go to the example. Suppose now function f of s is 1 upon s plus 2. Now in this case, we know that the pole is at -2, and at -2, the value of this function will become infinite. Because if you substitute s is equal to -2, f of s would be 1 upon -2 plus 2, which is 0. And so f of s will become infinity. Now in this case, at the value -2, the function is non-analytic. Or at all other points where the value of the function is non-infinity, the function is said to be analytic function, right? And the point at which the value of the function or its derivative is infinite is known as a singularity, right? So to summarize, the analytical function is a function where for all the values of s, if the function is existing and its derivative also exists, it is not becoming infinite, and the values of s at which it becomes infinite, it is called as a singularity, right? As in this example, the singularity is at -2. Okay. Now, the next very important concept that we need to understand is when we are discussing about the stability, we are discussing about or commenting on closed loop stability of the system. What do you mean by closed loop stability of the system? Location of closed loop poles determine whether the system is stable or unstable. And when we talk about location of closed loop poles, that means we are discussing about closed loop stability. Now let us just revise what we did throughout unit numbers 1, 2, and 3. We know that the characteristic equation is 1 plus GSHS is equal to 0. Roots of characteristic equation are nothing but closed loop poles of the system. Okay, and in Roots criteria, we have seen that if all the closed loop poles of the system lies in the left half of S-plane, then the system is absolutely stable. Even if a single pole lies in the right half of S-plane, the system will be unstable, right? So basically there are two types of stabilities that we analyze: open loop stability and closed loop stability. Open loop stability can be inferred from the location of open loop poles, and closed loop stability can be commented on from the location of closed loop, right? So we are interested in closed loop stability of the system, and so we need to ensure, before commenting, we should ensure that all the closed loop poles of the system should lie in the left half of S-plane, right? Now with this much preamble, we will see the next concept, that is poles of 1 plus GSHS. Now usually we know that OLTF is considered to be GS into HS. Closed loop transfer function OLTF is GS upon 1 plus GSHS. Characteristic equation is 1 plus GSHS and if it is equated to 0, then only we call it as a characteristic equation. Otherwise, it is not. Now, in this section or in this concept, what we are doing is we are just finding out what is the relationship between closed loop poles and other parameters. Now, what are the other parameters? If you look at the notes, the very first thing we have assumed that G of S is of the format numerator and denominator. N stands for numerator, D stands for denominator, and G, the suffix G stands for the function that we are talking about, G of S, right? So NG is numerator of G of S, DG is denominator of G of S. Similarly, we have N of H upon DH, right? Now, considering GS and HS equations, if suppose we write the expression for GSHS, that is open loop transfer function, just multiplication of these two, NGNH upon DGDH. So we have written this. Now let us directly go to the CLTF by skipping one step in between. We'll come back to that a little later. CLTF is GS upon 1 plus GSHS, right? So if you solve this, if you calculate 1 plus GSHS, put it in the denominator and G of S in the numerator. So we get NG into DH upon DGDH plus NGNH. You can solve it on your own and check it out, right? So this is the expression for CLTF. Now let us come to the second equation here, 1 plus GSHS. Please understand that we are not equating it to 0, and so that is why this can't be called as characteristic equation. We are just naming it or calling it as 1 plus GSHS equation, right? So if you just calculate 1 plus GSHS from GS and HS, we get this DGDH plus NGNH upon DG into DH. Now, if you take a look at this, I have marked the similar terms here, right? The similar terms are, look at the equation of OLTF in the denominator, DG into DH, and the same equation is in the denominator of 1 plus GSHS, right? So what we can conclude from this, open loop poles, as they are in denominator, are nothing but poles of 1 plus GSHS, right? Similarly, what we can say, this equation DGDH plus NGNH will give zeros of 1 plus GSHS, and those are nothing but closed loop poles of the system, right? So when we are trying to analyze closed loop stability of the system, we can analyze location of closed loop poles, or we can analyze zeros of 1 plus GSHS, right? So I have marked it here. Closed loop poles are nothing but zeros of 1 plus GSHS. I'm repeating, please don't call this equation as characteristic equation unless we equate it with 0, right? So in this concept, what we have learned is closed loop poles of the systems are nothing but zeros of 1 plus GSHS. So while commenting on the stability, while sketching the polar plot or Nyquist plot, instead of looking for location of closed loop poles, we can look for the location of zeros of 1 plus GSHS. And if all of them lie in the left half of S-plane, still we can comment on the stability and say that the system is absolutely stable. I hope this part is clear with you. These equations directly give you an idea why closed loop poles are equal to zeros of 1 plus GSHS, right? Now let us go ahead. Whatever we have discussed is, you can find it on in the notes. Yeah. Now the next important concept is mapping. Now what this mapping is, we know the dictionary meaning of mapping. We have some value and then we map it to some other value with the help of some function. Now in our case, suppose we have various values of S, and then we put these values of S and we get the function by calculating function f of S, we get the value of f of S, right? So consider f of S is a function of S that is analytic at all the points except the singularity, right? We have seen what is analytic function. The value of the function exists, and singularity is the point where the value of the function becomes infinite, right? So we will come back to this description a little bit later. We'll just see the conventional classic definition of mapping, and then we will see what is the significance of choosing analytic function and excluding the singularity. So now we know S plane. This is f of S plane. Now what f of S plane is, suppose you have certain value of f of S. Like we have the example down here. Yeah. So f of S is equal to 1 upon S plus 2, the same example which we have analyzed. Now what is S plane? S plane will have various values of S. We can keep on putting the values of S and we will keep on calculating what is f of S from this equation. So same thing is done here. Suppose now consider S is equal to minus 2 plus J3. This is called as S plane and this is called as f of S plane. On the right side you can find f of S plane, right? Now when you mark the point minus 2 plus J3 in S plane, you will have corresponding value by substituting value of S. You will have corresponding value of minus J 0.33 in f of S plane. So now I think the idea is clear. We are mapping value of S in f of S plane. So we have S plane, we choose a point in S plane, we substitute that S in f of S which is given, we get the value of f of S, we plot the point in f of S plane, right? So this is called as S plane and we have f of S plane. Now in the previous description what we have seen is, we have seen that function f of S must be analytical and value of S must be excluding the singularity. Because now please assume that we are considering a singularity. Like in this case, the singularity again is minus 2. So suppose you locate a point minus 2 in this S plane. What is its corresponding value? F of S value? Infinity. And you don't have anything to plot in f of S plane because you can't plot infinity in f of S plane. And so that is why you need to exclude singularities from this mapping. And the function has to be analytic. That means function has to have finite value for all values of S except singularities. I hope the idea is clear now. Okay. Now, if we are considering the various values of S and then plotting them in f of S plane, here we are talking about the points. Similarly, you can have the path also, or you can have a contour. So that we will see next. Mapping contour. Okay, before that we need to understand what is single valued function. Then we will go for contour mapping as the next point. Okay, so what single valued function is? Consider the example. Okay, look at the example given. F of S is equal to under root of S. Now suppose if value of S is 49, corresponding value, you substitute S here. So under root of 49, you either get plus 7 or minus 7. I mean, there are two possible values of f of S. And so this f of S is not a single valued function. Okay. So in the control systems curriculum, we have not come across a function which is not single valued. All we analyze is a single valued function. And the reason for that is given in the contour mapping. Okay. Now what is contour mapping? In contour mapping, instead of mapping a point from S plane, in f of S plane, you should have the mapped contour. Okay, instead of a point, now we have contour. Contour is nothing but a closed path or any path, right? So this is path in S plane. For each point in S plane contour, we should have corresponding point in f of S plane, right? And this is called as mapped contour. This is called as mapping contour, right? So in S plane, we have mapping contour. In f of S plane, we have mapped contour. Now what we were talking about, suppose we have S0, okay, corresponding f of S0 we have S1, we have corresponding f of S1. And this goes on for all the points on this contour, right? Now again, f of S has to be analytic at all points. So this contour must not pass through a singularity. There shouldn't be any point on the contour which is a singularity, so which makes f of s equal to infinity. That is our assumption. And second point, f of s is a single valued function. Now why is this so? Suppose this s0 is 49 as we have discussed. Okay, so suppose s0 is 49. Now where will you map it? You will have +7 as well as -7. So for a single point, you cannot have two different points on the mapped contour. That is not allowed, right? So that is why the single valued function is considered as f of s, and plus f of s must be analytic at all points. Points on the s in the s-plane contour must not pass through or must not contain a singularity, right? So this is called as contour mapping. Okay, now I think the points are clear. What we have seen analytic function and singularity. Then we have seen mapping. What is mapping? S-plane and f of s-plane. Then we have seen single valued function, and then we have seen contour mapping. Okay, now the most important part of this is called as encirclement. This is the last point in this session. So encirclement is nothing but, now first we will read the definition and then we will go to the interpretation, diagrammatic interpretation of encirclement. So a point, just read the first definition. A point or region is said to be encircled by a closed path if it is found to lie inside the closed path. We know the dictionary meaning of encirclement, and it is exactly similar in this context as well. If suppose a point or a region is lying inside a closed path, then we call that point or path to be encircled by the contour or closed path, right? Now we will directly see how the encirclements are counted. Okay, you can read the notes later on. It is better to explain with the help of a diagram. Okay, so now this is an example. The first example, you can see the encirclement around point A we need to calculate. So for point A we are calculating. This is point A. We have a closed path and we have direction also. Direction plays very important role in calculating or counting encirclements. Now please understand, suppose if I draw an arrow which crosses this closed path and it comes out of this closed path in a specific direction. Now to count the encirclements, you need to see how many times it is crossing the closed path, right? How many times it is crossing in this case? It is crossing only once, right? And now here the direction is anti-clockwise, and that is why we consider negative sign. Now you can see that in the previous notes, you can see that the assumptions can be made other way around as well. You can assume that the original contour was in clockwise direction, and so the mapped contour will be, if it is in the anti-clockwise condition, it is opposite than the original contour, so the sign is negative. And if the original contour is in anti-clockwise direction and mapped contour is in clockwise direction, still it will be negative. So it solely depends on how the mapping contour is, how the original contour is, and based on that you can check the direction of mapped contour in f of s plane and decide the sign, right? So in this case, for solving these problems, we will assume that the original contour is in the clockwise direction, and so this anti-clockwise encirclement is denoted by a negative sign. Okay, so it is crossing once in anti-clockwise direction, and that is why encirclement is -1. Similarly, here the encirclement around the origin. So from origin, we just draw a line and we see how many times it is crossing. Here it is crossing once, and here it is crossing once. And in both the cases, it is in the anti-clockwise direction. And so that is why -2 is the encirclement. Okay. Now the third case is encirclement for origin in the third case. Now when you draw this line, we say that it is not, first of all, it is not lying inside the a closed path, and so that is why the encirclement is 0. Okay, so it is not from inside, it is not coming out. There is some portion which is lying on this side and another side, so you can make out this is not encircled by, this origin is not encircled by a closed contour, and so the encirclement is counted as 0. Now there are cases where encirclements cancel out. The fourth example, this example where suppose encirclement for the origin, again you draw a line, it is crossing 2 times here also and here also. But if you just follow the arrows directions, then you will find that here it is anti-clockwise, and here it is clockwise. So here there will be -1 and here there is +1. So -1 plus 1 cancels out each other, and then finally encirclement is equal to 0, right? I hope it is clear to you how to calculate the encirclements and how to interpret what is the sign of the encirclement. Now let us just see once the note. Negative and positive encirclements depend on direction of contour in S-plane. Now I hope this is clear. What we are doing is we have some contour in S-plane, and now ultimately we have mapped it to f of S plane. Whatever examples we are showing here are nothing but mapped contours, and direction of mapped contours are compared with the original contour, mapping contour in S plane. If both the directions are same, then the sign is positive. If the directions are opposite, then the sign is negative. So in some of the books, this is a very important note. If you are referring any of the books, in some of the books you will find clockwise is considered to be positive and anti-clockwise to be negative. In some other books you will find vice versa. So please assume that you will have to remember this, that it doesn't depend on anti-clockwise or clockwise. It completely depends on what is the direction of the contour in original S plane, and so correspondingly what do we get in f of S plane, right? So at the end of this module, let us just revise what we have seen. First is definition of analytic function. The function is said to be analytic when the value f of S or its derivative exists. That means it is finite. At the points of S, at the values of S, when f of S becomes infinity, those points are known as singularities, right? Then we have seen single valued function. What is single valued function? For any value of S, f of S should have only one value, right? If it doesn't have one value, then it is called as non-single valued function. But we need to analyze, we need to have analytic functions as well as single valued functions so as to map the contours properly. Then we have seen mapping also and contour mapping. Mapping is nothing but we have S plane, we have some points in S plane, then corresponding by substituting those values of S in f of S, we obtain the value of f of S and then we plot that point as well. This is called as mapping. If the function is non-analytic at some point of S, then we cannot plot it on f of S plane because the value becomes infinity, and that is why such values should be avoided. Later on, we discussed about the contours, mapping contours. Similar to points, we can have contours as well, like closed paths. Each point on the closed path must have some finite value in f of S, so that contour must not pass through singularities. And similar to point mapping, we can have contour mapping as well. And in the end, we have seen encirclements. Encirclement is nothing but this encirclement is a point or contour is said to be encircled by a particular path if it is lying inside that particular path, right? And how to count them? We need to draw a line joining that point about which we are counting encirclements up to the point outside, or up to the portion outside the closed path or contour. And then we need to calculate how many times it is crossing that path, and direction will depend on the original contour also and contour in f of S plane. Now let me tell you two notations which we use the contour C in S-plane, and we use contour C suffix F, CF, in F of S-plane. So when I say contour C, that means that contour is in the original S-plane, and when I say contour CF, that means it is a mapped contour in F of S-plane. Okay, so this is the end of this module. In the next session, we are going to see the mapping theorem, which is most important and from which the Nyquist criteria is derived. And in the next session, we also will we will see the solve problem, and then we will end these modules. Okay, thank you.